Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Radical Healing Podcast. I am your host, Jess Betancourt. If you have been a longtime listener of this podcast, or if you're new here and you gain value from what is shared here and offered here, we would so appreciate if you would leave us a review with all the stars and all the nice comments so that other people can find us as well. It really helps us out, and we definitely appreciate it. That being said, we're so glad that you're here today. I have an awesome guest. Her name is Natalie Bedard, and I'm going to read her bio to you. Please pardon me. One moment as I sift through my notes. Natalie Bedard is also known as NatNat. She is an energy healing specialist committed to guiding others on their journey of self discovery and emotional well being. As the founder of Lift OneSelf and the host of the Lift OneSelf podcast, she's been transforming lives since 2019 by offering tools to regulate the nervous system, relieve emotional pain, and transform anxiety into empowerment. NatNat's trauma-informed approach helps individuals embrace their fullest potential through small, actionable steps towards growth and transformation. Despite facing life-threatening illness and the challenges of single parenthood, she remains a resilient mentor, empowering clients with compassion, resilience, and radical honesty. Hi, Nat. Welcome. So happy you're here.
Wow, every time when somebody says my bio, I'm like, "Is that me they're talking about?" How are you, Jessica?
I'm good. I know it's weird to hear about yourself to yourself in the
Yeah, it
aspect.
is.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you how far you've come, I imagine, and through all the phases of life that you've been through.
Yeah, and that's not even touching some of the surface of what has been going on in the past year or so. I'm thankful for the experience and the tools that I've cultivated and grown so that when life is lifing, I know
Mhm.
to stay within inside and not be grasping on the outside. So I'm thankful. I know that might sound pretty odd to some people when they're like, thankful, like, what are you talking about? Yet, when you can shift your perception into seeing that life is for you, even when it doesn't go the way that your mind has narrated as a story,
Mhm.
that's where you're not rejecting reality. Because every time you reject reality, you're going to suffer a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So, before we get into that, would you join me in a mindful moment so that we can kind of ground ourselves and open ourselves up for this dialogue?
Would absolutely love to.
And this is
Uh,
one of the tools that I
Okay.
teach my clients.
Mhm.
And for the listeners, many will listen to this podcast while driving. So I'll ask you safety first. Please don't close your eyes when I ask Jessica and myself to do. Yet you're able to listen to the other prompts with whatever you're doing.
Mm.
So, Jessica, I'll ask you to get comfortable in your seating.
Okay.
And if it's safe to do so, you're going to gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to be aware of its rhythm, allowing it to guide you into your body. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up, and that's okay. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Drop deeper into your body and be with your breath. Now, there may be some thoughts or to do lists, or maybe even somebody popped into your mind. It's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating space between the awareness and the thoughts, and dropping even deeper into your body, being in the space of being. Again, more thoughts may have popped up. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, beginning again, creating even more space between the awareness and the thoughts, and completely dropping into the body, being in that space of being, observing. And anytime the mind drags you into a thought, you just gently release that and come back to your breath. Just continue staying with that breath, observing the rhythm of your breath may have changed, observing there may be some things in the body you weren't aware of before. Just staying with your breath. Now, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while still staying with the breath. How's your heart doing?
My heart is good. Whenever I drop in like this and give myself a minute, I always feel emotional, and like my process is to just let it be and to let myself shed tears or to breathe deeper. Um, my heart feels good. There was a little bit of pressure on my heart at first, but that was maybe my adrenaline and like my impending to-do list as a parent and a business owner and a therapist, and like the postman might come and I hope he doesn't come while we're recording and like all that stuff, and like it's okay, like there's always gonna be something.
It's to
Yeah.
be able to pivot when life is lifing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Come in and like be with my own systems, my internal systems, how my body is feeling present, or how I am feeling present inside my body or not. Oh, but thank you. I do meditate every day, but I think just taking a moment, like now for me, it's like 1:30 almost. That's kind of when I feel like it's really necessary, like after the day has ramped up a bit, and instead of pushing through, to pause and to like reset, come back, find some centeredness and groundedness. Yeah, thank you. That was really nice. That's kind of like how I also start my hypnosis sessions, is by having people drop into their body and follow their breath. And like, it's really just so simple, and it's so available, so
Yeah.
accessible.
That's why I call it mindful moments, because a lot of people have aversion to hear about meditation and or
Mm,
breath work.
right,
It feels like another task, or it might be too woo woo. So
right.
that's why I just say a mindful moment to check in with yourself, to see where your mental state is, what emotions you might be suppressing. That midday, we don't realize how much we've stored and suppressed inside us. And if we
Mm,
don't hold an honest space to acknowledge and validate, like, oh, I'm a little stressed right now, or oh boy, I'm feeling a little fear, or boy, it's a little antsy right now, or freak, everybody wants my attention, but I just want to lie down, like all these things. If
mm-hmm,
you haven't created a space to acknowledge that, it just keeps piling up, piling up, piling up as real tension and stress that you feel like you're not able to breathe. You feel
mm-hmm,
like you're not able to fully formulate your thoughts or have clarity of your choices. It's just a lot of knee-jerk reactions. So
mm-hmm,
when you're able to, like, as you said, and how I started it too in my beginning journey, it was like, okay, I'm going to set times for my meditation and that will calibrate me. Where really meditation at the beginning is to be on the pillow so that you can start being aware of your inner journey. The main goal is to bring meditation in your everyday living. So
mm-hmm,
to be grounded in your breath, to
mm-hmm,
interrupt those patterns that drag you, the mind drags you in places where it's like, feels like a bullet train going, and it's like, I can't stop this thing. I just got to keep going with it. And it's like, nope, you can interrupt it. Just come back to your breath. Your breath is always in the moment. That's the one thing that never leaves you and is always in the moment to help ground you. Yet sometimes when we get grounded, like you said, there's emotions and energies that are coming up, and it's like, I don't feel too safe feeling that. Yet
Yeah.
more that you hold a sacred space for yourself, the more that you can validate yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you. That was really practical way to just take a pause. I'm wondering for our listeners and people who are maybe a little bit less practiced in taking some mindful moments, like in this experience, say that people just did a mindful moment with us in real time, or they're like, oh, as soon as I stop my car or this podcast is over, maybe I'll do this. What are kind of like the next steps for people, or like what more does that process look like?
Well, that process starts to release the things that have been suppressed. You see, well, yeah, I know trauma is a big buzzword right now, and everybody's like, oh, try. And then TikTok is, finding all these experts that are telling you all this stuff, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're of value, and they could be harming you more than, helping with your healing. Trauma, in simple terms, how I explain it, is it's not the event. And a lot of people think it's the event.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma is what the nervous system defined as harmful and painful. So that experience, your nervous system gave it a definition. What happens is you were probably in the space where we feel our peace, our vulnerability, we allow our emotions to be expressed, and we can just be in the void of the emptiness. Well, a lot of times what trauma does of the definition of the nervous system, it creates an armament around that space. So it doesn't allow you to go into the space. Like Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there's this space. Rumi said the same thing, meet me in the space.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma stops you from going into that space. Yet, if you start to allow yourself to feel your authentic emotions, not think your feelings, actually let
Mm-hmm.
your body's wisdom let it come up,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you can be in the space and not keep getting bounced out of the space because your nervous system is defining that as harmful, because the space is the unknown and the uncertainty. Yet
Mm-hmm.
the mind likes to fool us to think that we're in control of things. And when
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't go by our expectations,
Mm-hmm.
boy, do we not go into a spiral. Like you have an expectation of your children behaving a certain way. And
Oh,
when
geez.
they don't, whoo, does it not spiral us? And we're like, get back to our center, get back. And, like for myself, I have 15-year-old twins, and teenagers are a heck of a thing, and boys, and it's like, oh, all the tools that I know, sometimes the neurotic mom comes out, and I'm like, okay, I know better, yet my biology, if I don't know how to access it in the moment and validate what I'm feeling, it's going to go into a knee-jerk pattern. And most
Mm-hmm.
times it's like yelling or freaking
Mm-hmm.
out in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I've also created a space where my twins can acknowledge, like, that's not my stuff. So to
Awesome.
come back to your point, this mindful moment brings you into a journey that allows you to take power over your choices and not be hijacked, your behavior being hijacked by your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't a snap of a finger. Some people, they excel because they have the willingness. Myself, I had a willingness because death was on my neck and was like, there's nowhere else to go. So I was like, oh, I have to go inward. Other people, it's little increments.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing with this is not comparing yourself. It's about having radical compassion and grace with yourself, that you're practicing, you're
Yeah.
learning.
And it's your practice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Honor your path,
Yeah.
right? I used to play capoeira, and like some people were really good. And then there was like me who was just figuring it out. And my capoeira teacher was like, embrace being a beginner. And I was like, okay. That just made it seem so much more easy and approachable. So yeah, if you're
Yeah.
new to mindfulness practices, like embrace the venture of beginnership. None of
Yeah.
us knew anything until we stepped into the unknown space of willing to learn it bit by bit and how it worked with us individually in like this signature way. I love that you mentioned like to not compare ourselves to other people's healing journeys or paths. And I think that's so important. I would love to hear, because this podcast is also about people's um, autobiographical journeys into how they came into their work. And um, I know that you had a near death experience, but I would love for you to share with our listeners not a near death experience in probably the way that like an NDE, but or did you? I don't know. But I would love to hear about that part of your journey and how that transformation through that has helped you gain the skill set that you have now and also inform the work that you do.
Yeah. And just to come back to the mindfulness, to
Mm-hmm.
give people a visual of what this practice can look like and why people just, stop. It's like driving a manual car.
Mm.
That thing's gonna stall a lot if you don't
Oh
understand
yeah.
how to balance that clutch.
For sure.
And you're gonna bang the steering wheel, and you're gonna be like, "I just give the F up because I'm not doing this. This is not like, it doesn't make any sense. This car's not getting anywhere. I'm not even able to get it to move." The mindfulness can be the same way. Some people can understand the clutch really quickly and engage and still stall. Other people won't even come out the driveway because I just really can't, not able to get there yet. But
Yeah.
with practice, it comes like that. So I just wanted, I'm a visual person because some of
Mm-hmm.
this is nuanced and abstract for people. So
Mm-hmm.
really understanding your biology, it's like coming out of that automatic response and
Mm-hmm.
going into manual. That's what mindfulness allows you to do, that
Mm,
you start to take charge of your nervous system and you understand it better as a manual part and not just automatic response. So
mm.
that
I really like that analogy. Yeah.
for them to
Driving
visually,
manual cars, guys.
yeah. So, yeah, 11 years ago, I was hospitalized. I was sick for about 3 months and kept going to the ER. And on my fifth visit, they finally listened to me and said that I had lesions in my brainstem and in my cerebellum, and that I was possibly going to die in 6 months
Oh,
because my body had completely shut down. I hadn't had a bowel movement in, I think it was like 4 weeks, 4 or 6
oh my
weeks.
God. But
I
what
was
happened prior to that? How?
I was just fatigued and sick, and Christmas Eve, I just crashed, and I was sick in bed. Like, when I say sick in bed, I was sick in bed. Like, my oldest son would have to carry me like a child into the car and get a wheelchair and put me in a wheelchair. Like, I was my
Um,
body shut down. I was throwing up. I couldn't even swallow water. I had vertigo. And so I wasn't able to distract myself with things. I couldn't read, I couldn't listen to music, couldn't watch anything because of the pain. So it was just the inward journey. So in that, pain is a teacher.
mhm.
And I leaned into that. I was hospitalized for almost 40 days. They did a battery of tests. So when science doesn't know what's going on with you, know that there's a lot of physical tests that are going to be painful that they're going to put you through to try to figure out things. So I got to learn a little bit more about the medical system, and I was discharged without a diagnosis because everything that was coming back in biopsies and in tests, and they even put radiation in me, it kept coming back atypical, but not a diagnosis of what actually is the root cause of this. So, being released, I went into some patterns that set me off in having a relapse of the pain coming back. So, all they could offer me was prednisone and morphine, which I had to take. And I don't know if anybody's been on prednisone, any of your listeners, yet that thing, I was on like 88 milligrams, like a very high dose. So, I gained weight very quickly. And the insatiable appetite was awful. Like, you're hungry and you're throwing up because your body can't take anymore, and then your mind's still like, "We need to eat some more." Like, it's
Oh my
so
God.
awful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I've gathered a lot of different experiences of what people have gone through so that I really have a seat of listening and not just trying to understand something. I've actually walked the walk in certain things. So in that, because, after a while with prednisone, there's secondary, illnesses and things that can happen to the body because that's a lot of cortisol that the body only produces, like, I think it's 30 milligrams or something like that per day. So when you're taking 88, like, that's gonna start impacting your other systems. So thankfully, I was willing and I listened, and a friend asked me one day, would I join a meditation intro with her? So I did, and it was actually her brother's birthday, and her brother had passed several years before. So when you're open and you're willing to listen to the other side of love and the universe and how everything's divinely connected, beautiful things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So meditation allowed me to go internally and somatically release a lot of the trauma. And remember how I said trauma is the interpretation of the nervous system stopping you from going in the space and
Mm-hmm.
actually feeling your emotions. So all that stuff was coming up and that didn't feel good. It didn't feel good at all. I can see myself still bawling on the floor of my bedroom, wondering like, how did I get myself here? What is going on? My twins were 4 at the time. So,
Oh.
and I was solo parent. So it just comes crashing down in all of that. Yet I just continued on that journey inwardly. And then I came off the medication, and that also started my body to start to communicate better because I was taking responsibility. Then I recognized, my son's father died in Jamaica, so we had to go down to Jamaica for the funeral. And there I recognized like I saw it before, but I realized my drinking was really to deal with my social anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
trying to fit in spaces. Like, it took
Mm-hmm.
off my filter and I felt, like, acceptable, yet I didn't know how to accept myself. So then I made a choice of removing alcohol because I wasn't even getting a buzz off of it. I so much pain in my body that nothing was working. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Why would I put this in my body to even harm it some more if I'm not even getting the good feel from it?"
Yeah.
So I
No.
made it. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just said there's no payoff. There's like no benefit.
Exactly. So I decided to take away the alcohol and engage in that. And that was pretty easy because I wasn't going out much anymore. So my lifestyle was really changed in that aspect. When the twins stressed me out, yeah, my mind would go to it a bit, yet it was like, no, you know that there's nothing. Engage in the meditation more. And then I also decided, okay, I'm going to really engage with my emotions. So I took away spending for a year. And the biggest, most challenging part was not being able to go to the dollar store and spend
Ah.
because the dollar store is great to,
Yeah,
numb our
good
emotions and avoid.
dopamine hit in the dollar
Yeah.
stores, sure.
Yeah. So I engaged with that, and then I engaged with no sexual contact because I understood that my wound as a child, I was still grasping for that absent father, which
Mm,
then put me into some relationships that were very toxic and very unhealthy,
mhm.
psychologically and emotionally. So, I know some people are like, F? And I'm like, I was engaged and willing to do this because remember, I had death on my door. So
Mhm,
the doctors and all that couldn't help me with anything, just offer me medication. And that wasn't working. It was putting me in a different direction. So I engaged and I took the choice of really diving into my nervous system, really removing a lot of the past residue that was blocking me from my being in my worth.
mhm,
Really removing those holes with an H so that I could be whole with a W.
mhm.
And also with the meditation, they I always laugh at that. When you start meditation, they always tell you to cultivate a quiet space in your house and I did TM, transcendental meditation. That was my path in there. And so they tell you twice a day for 20 minutes and, create a quiet room. I'm like, my twins are 4. Like, where do you think?
Good
And they
book.
were up at like 5 a.m. every morning,
Mhm.
like, let's go. I was like, I am not going to be able to do this. And they're not going to comprehend at 4. Mommy needs her space. Like, they're like, no.
No, they're gonna sit in your lap and stick their fingers in your ears.
So
Yeah.
I took it onto the couch in the living room. And while they were playing and listening to loud TV and fighting against each other, I got to see what the nervous system wants to interrupt things. When they would fight, oh boy, it would stir things up in me that I have to find who's the victim and who's the perpetrator, and everything's supposed to be kumbaya, and they're not supposed to fight because I'm an only child. So I never experienced sibling
Mhm.
rivalry. I didn't
Mm,
understand this thing. And I was like,
mm.
oh no, this is theirs is to a degree that is really like people look and they're like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's just my work that I have as a parent right
Yeah,
now."
which is
Yet I
so
took it onto the couch. I like, as you hear, everything's practical that I use. This isn't like the
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
free. This isn't about trying to look good. This is about really meeting yourself, meeting your biology, being
mm,
able to remove and interrupt these patterns that have been ingrained for decades. And that takes a lot of work because your nervous system is automatic. It's just going to go through that pathway. When we talk about creating new neural pathways, that means interrupting your patterns. That
mhm,
means engaging with your biology, where
mhm,
it's like, whoo, and so I did that warrior work. And the more that I did it, there was a presence that came about around me. The death also brought that presence around me because there was a complete surrender. And I had a different relationship with death. I was no longer trying to run and avoid it. I accepted it as part of life. We can thoroughly, think of these things, yet embody it in our body is a different thing.
for sure.
So, that's where these practices and this work came in. And in my meditation, because people were coming to me, that's why Lift OneSelf was created in 2019. It came from a meditation. And I just kept sitting with it like, are you sure? Is this not my wound wanting attention or trying to prove that I have something or whatnot? And it was like, no, this is a deeper knowing.
Mm,
And so when I'm holding, space for people and letting them understand more in a simple terms their biology and the ahas that people get and the why are you in my head? Like you're saying everything that I'm thinking and feeling. And it's like I'm just in the shared space that we all are in our humanity. And I'm just speaking things that people don't know how to put into words or they're too afraid to actually verbalize.
mm,
Yet once we can honor our truth, and it doesn't mean that you have to speak your truth to everybody. It's
right.
just if you're not able to hold that space of honesty for yourself and see your imperfections. Like it's a whole thing that we all like, oh, don't like as soon as somebody's crying or down, oh, it's okay, it's okay. Like you got this. And it's like, why can we not hold space for the sadness and the melancholy so it can give a message?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like the majority of people are uncomfortable with other people's emotions, so they try to suppress someone else's emotions because it makes them uncomfortable just to hold space for it. And it's almost like I had to really learn that, especially as a parent. It's like that is their weather. Like it's just weather moving through. It's not about you. how much how much can you honor this person by allowing them to express themselves in this way, in a non-harmful, non-violent way. I think that those are like the parameters that I juggle as a parent. But I think many of us grew up like that. It was like, it's fine, stop crying, let it go. It's not that big of a deal. And like just being really invalidated all the time. Not even it doesn't even have to be in a malicious way. It's like your loving mom is just like trying to make dinner And she's like, okay, that's enough. It's like, and everything just gets curtailed. And this metabolic process that the emotional states have to go through, it's stalled and then just locked inside the body. But you have a workshop coming up specifically around this. Is that right? Tell us,
Yes, it's called
tell us about that.
emotional sobriety. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called, thank you for that. It's called emotional sobriety, where I'm bringing people into a depth of their body. It's for 60 minutes. There's some resources that I send when they sign up to do before we meet. And then in that 60 minutes, I'm going to explain some of the emotional response. I also have, the interrupt pattern response that I bring them into so that they can actually know their triggers, that they can start becoming familiar and remove the blame game. We want to say other people are triggering us. Oh, my children are just triggering me. And it's like, they don't have the buttons you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, what is in you that's getting unearthed and vibrating so high? And every parent can relate to this unless they've done tremendous work and they can see it for what themselves. Yet other nervous systems activate other nervous systems, and they come from our nervous system. So they're going to activate a lot of unhealed, unprocessed things that, oh, excuse me, that are not allowing us to be whole.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, the emotional part, whew, there's some authentic emotions we don't even know how to hold space for. And when you said the violence, it's like, whew, when they're two and understanding the body is just, and they hit and it's like, okay, let's do this in a safe container, yet let's not judge because this is their process of trying to deal with these big emotions, big energies that are going on. Like when you can't get your way, it doesn't feel good. The mind doesn't like that unless
Yeah,
you
no,
have
it's
the,
so overwhelming. Look at my 3-year-old just dug his fingernail into my eye. You can see
yeah.
because he was upset.
So
His minion fell in the toilet, and I couldn't get it out fast
yeah.
enough, and he had to go to school. And I sort of picked him up, and he just gouged my face with his nails over a minion in the toilet. And it was like it wasn't about me, it was like he felt so inept and didn't have the language capacity to express. We don't have these abilities when we're young, but we still act like that. And it's like what you're saying is so true. Like our children do not trigger us or other people don't trigger us. It's like something is activated that is latent or boiling within us. And then it's has a chance to come to the surface because we inherited the nervous system imprints from our parents, right? From their parents, and generationally backwards. I can tell for myself, I have 4 kids, and when they fucking scream, my heart seizes like I'm gonna have a heart attack sometimes. And it's it's not even that bad. But I grew up in a house where there was tons of screaming, and it my whole body is and that. I used to drink for that reason, and then I would say, oh, I have to drink because it calms this down, and then I don't feel pain in my heart. But even though I took alcohol away as that reason, it is so present, and I have to
Mhm.
really be patient with myself to this is kind of the piece that I'm personally working on. But what you're saying is so true. It's it could be that I just hear strangers yelling on the street. It doesn't necessarily have to be my kids. They're much closer to home in my emotional state. They're part of my emotional body. But it's for me. It's not for them to fix. It's not for them to not do what they're doing. It's that. It's for me. This is my thing I got to work on. It's present all the time. It's reactivated. It's reactivated. I'm wondering, just since I have you here, what what might be some ways that someone who's resonating with what I just said, that maybe they encounter this, they feel triggered by a certain circumstance or environment or person even over and over again, how might they begin to work through that reaction to have a different response?
I want to thank you for your vulnerability and
Mm,
really letting it be relatable to the listeners. Um, there is a significant imprint in your nervous system. So your nervous system doesn't feel safe. And
mhm,
although you've intellectually recognized your triggers,
mhm,
you haven't dived deep into the emotion of feeling what it felt like in those instances when there was yelling.
mm,
You haven't seen it through the eyes of your younger Jessica to
mhm,
feel what authentically you would have wanted to express or say in those moments. and not just an intellectual, actually emotionally. And I can see that it's your safety of your nervous system's coming up because I'm holding that space for that nervous system's like, I can say this and I can feel this, and somebody's seeing me and validating me. And that's all your nervous system is looking for. Yet what you're doing right now is co-regulating with me right now. And you didn't get co-regulation when those things were happening. So how could you learn how to create safety for your nervous system if nobody helped you to co-regulate?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we're
Do I need
doing,
a
our nervous
co-regulator?
systems. Well, just at the
Yeah.
beginning, unless you know your tools and you're willing to engage, like I said, I was willing to engage. I also have, there's a deep knowing. Some of the stuff that I know about the nervous system, I'm like, I didn't go to the academics to find this out, and I didn't. And when I explain it and I'm around medical staff, they're like, can you explain? Can you take over my job and just explain? Because you've done it so beautifully and so simply. So there's a deep knowing that I know with the nervous system and engage with it. So that imprint, it's valid. And it's the main thing I'm teaching in emotional sobriety is the slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Matrix. You understand your triggers. So you're like, oh, when my kids start, yet a lot of times we're like, oh yeah, we just have the triggers and we're just going to go with it. Where it's like, we're not acknowledging, oh, this might be a roller coaster. So touching your body and letting it recognize, like, I'm here, I'm safe. Because your nervous system doesn't know present, past, or future. It just knows the imprints and the narratives that it's created. And its one function, don't die. And if
Right.
something comes close to those wounds, that signals death. So that's why we go off, like loud noises or drilling or thunder and lightning. It's just bringing up that fear. Yet when that fear comes up, are you able to acknowledge it and just take a moment and validate it?
Mm.
And that's very difficult because we're in patterns of just defaulting how to soothe it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
physically did the sobriety, yet now you're recognizing, oh, there's the emotional sobriety. And
Mm-hmm.
how do I feel these emotions? Not just, oh, this is all how my nervous system's always going to be. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Life is going to life.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, if you hold a space to validate what the emotions are and what they're feeling, and that you actually listen to the messages,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it's just the imprint. And those are deep core wounds that it takes some time for that nervous system to be able to regulate and find safety. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's still imprinted, because as you felt, there are some deep emotions that are still in there that it's like, oh, when I open, it's like, whew, I don't realize I'm storing that so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yet to be that vulnerable all the time, that's warrior work.
Mm. It totally. I mean, I 100% agree. I think when I first started doing this work, it would be like huge waves, like I would just bawl into tears and no intellectualizing it at all, just like allowing it to happen and not reaching for wine. Like that's what I was doing a few years ago. And then that kind of soothed, right? And now I'm like in this state where I'm expanding the capacity of my nervous system even more. And it's like this deep thing is now surfacing. And it's kind of like, I just need to do this process over again. It almost kind of never ends. I don't know, unless we reach some point of sainthood or enlightenment. So I tell my clients, I'm like, not drinking or drinking less is not going to solve your problems, but it is going to make them solvable. Like it's not going to take it all away, but you're going to be in a place where you can actually address and maintain and have a bigger threshold point of your how you can manage stress or how you can respond instead of react. Um, it's not the be all end all, right? It's not. It doesn't just have a point of finality on it. It's work. It's healing. And
That's what I
healing
was going to
doesn't
say.
has any lips after it, not a period.
Yeah, like my more profound, like the emotional sobriety is a workshop for 60 minutes. And then I'm in the midst of finalizing my other course that's called Raw Healing, which is a
Mm,
4-week container to really get into understanding your biology, which is your nervous system, the triggers, the wounds, emotions. And yeah, your mind wants to come to this arrival of perfection, and that's not what being human is.
No.
And it's, life is going to life with all the tools that I have. My friend just passed away November 27th, and it was a 2-year journey of cancer. And I did 8 days of hospice of waiting for a body just to die. It was, she wasn't drinking, wasn't eating, wasn't on any um life support or IVs or nothing. So, I saw how resilient a body can be for 8 days,
Yeah.
where it's also a real big mind fuck to your mind, no matter how spiritual and all the tools, because you're actually going through that process. And like I shared with you before we started recording last night, I just had to emote and be in the melancholy because some of what I experienced in November hasn't caught up yet. Like, I didn't feel the full intimacy of myself. I was holding space for her,
Right.
and I was holding space for other people around. I was still taking moments to feel my emotions, yet what really needed to be is the depths of my wounds. And so now the depths of my wounds are emerging, and I'm
Mhm.
willing to be able to engage when those spaces come up. And I'm feeling them, not, oh, I should just be over this. It's like,
Mm.
no, this is going to be a part of the journey.
Mhm.
I've been with grief since I was 12 because my grandmother was like my mother and she transitioned when I was 12. So grief isn't like it's an unfamiliar space. It's just the depths of the other side of love and the abyss of it. It's like, oh my gosh, there's no ending of it. The great thing about being able to do things raw is that the comeback is much quicker. Like when you're drinking and you're numbing, that puts in, depletion of your electrolytes, you got hangover, your other systems. So physiologically, you're trying to catch up. So you may have felt, a little bit, but really you didn't feel the full arc of the charge. So it's going to come back up again. And then it just becomes a real nasty cycle. And like you said, I had to go through the crying and just like really weathering that hump. And once you can do the hump, the biology is like, oh, okay, so we're creating a new neural pathway that we're
Mhm.
not just defaulting to this chemical fix. Like you're creating the ability to feel some of these chemicals being released in this energy. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you don't bump back to a pattern. I've constantly bumped back to a pattern. It's being able to recognize and acknowledge, oh, I'm gone back into a pattern and asking yourself, what am I protecting?
Mm.
What is
Yeah.
the emotion that I'm not willing to feel? Because these, I understand how frustrating it can be, especially when there's addiction, that you're going back to something that you know is not good for you.
Mhm.
Could be spending, could be alcohol, could be, anything
People.
that you
Yeah.
know that it's gone in a way that is very harmful. Understand that it's a method of protecting your vulnerability. This is not giving an excuse. This is just making sure that you aren't going into self-loathing
Mm.
because that isn't going to help you. You
Mm.
need radical compassion to create safety for your nervous system to allow you to see what it is that you're protecting, that you feel that you don't have the capacity to feel this and
Yeah.
move into the change.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like eating an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's digestion, there's some days you got to
Digesting.
digest, and
Yeah.
some days
You
you're like,
cannot
I'm not eating this
process
darn thing. Like, I'm
it.
not. I want to eat that antelope for a bit. Like right now, I did like this elephant is just too much.
It's too much elephant sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take some breaks,
So
take
meet
some breath.
yourself where you are and have grace and
Yeah.
be playful with this. Because when we're doing deep healing, the rigidity of the nervous system gets very serious and it
Mm.
gets into a lot of pessimism and negative bias. Your
Mhm.
work is to be in the optimism, to be in the possibility. That's what you're helping yourself, because when you reach for the drinks or the addiction, the negative bias is just too overwhelming from the nervous system. So you're like, "Oh, numb this shit down. Like I need some openness."
Mhm.
And it works for a bit, but then after you realize like this isn't working anymore and it's really
Mhm.
not serving its purpose.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
like being able to acknowledge, yeah, your nervous system has one function, don't die. It's going to flood you with negative bias if there's emotions trying to come up that you aren't holding the space to validate.
Yeah, it feels very threatening.
So
Mhm.
that's where the suicidal ideation and the dark depressions and all that will come in. This biology is very powerful, it's very intelligent, and it's
Mhm.
always serving to protect you. May not be in the way that you think it is. Yet when that negative bias is coming in, that inner critic is coming in, it's signaling like there's something that's going on, yet it's for you to ask, well, what are you trying to protect me from?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
that's where you can get into your vulnerability of this little voice that's trying to emerge from all this static and loudness, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. We say a similar thing in hypnotherapy and in other other types of therapy. It's that like what is actually the positive intention of this habit or this reaction? The positive intention is to save your life. The positive intention is to protect you from something that marked you and instilled fear or adrenaline in you in the past that you have a record of inside of your body. Yeah. So I think it's saying the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
what is trying to be saved here? What are we hiding from ourselves? And it's like that kind of radical honesty that like doesn't look pretty, especially if we say it to other people. But that is like the key to unlocking that will put somebody on the path of like this. I'll call it an adventure of a spiritual awakening or a healing path. It's really an adventurous path of self-discovery, but it does take the willingness, even if you don't know how it's going to go or what it's going to look like, just the willingness to see what it is that you haven't been able to look at or see or let yourself, or haven't been in a place where you're well resourced enough. Sometimes we do have to hide, like some people spend years in hiding just out of survival. They're not in a place where they can be held to process, whether
Mhm.
that's they don't have money or community or people that care or even just like a safe place to live. Sometimes it's just not available yet, but the willingness, I think, is like just for me in my experience and how I work with people, it's just the willingness. And when people have the willingness, they can do it.
I think another big powerful thing is the witnessing. When
Yeah.
you can bring your truth and somebody doesn't turn away, shame, or judge you,
Hmm.
and you have that space of compassion, that space of witnessing,
Hmm.
that space of being seen,
Yeah.
that space of co-regulating in that moment, that you can start to change the narrative that is going on in your head that's protecting you from revealing this raw honesty.
Hmm.
So that's why they say, find a therapist or find somebody to work with. And it's not that, I always remind my clients, as much as you think I'm doing the work, and yes, I am holding space, I cannot negate the wisdom in the space that I'm doing. Yet do not ever minimize the work that you're doing. The only reason why you can feel these openings is because your biology feels safe. And the reason why your biology is because of this witnessing and this transference a little bit, yet you are still doing that. It's
Hmm.
not me going into your nervous system and telling it. It's
Hmm.
my nervous system is open enough that it could hook and be like, oh, this is where we can be. We
Hmm.
don't have to be in this script that is there. So
No.
that witnessing allows all of a sudden these aha moments and these parts of, oh, I can be in my wholeness, that this thing that I did isn't my identity, but it really feels like it
Yeah.
because the world is very judgmental. And
Right.
no matter what mistake, it's like, oh no, that's stuck with you now and that's who you are. And change becomes like it's impossible.
Hmm.
Yet it's recognizing you're not to look like the judgments that you're seeing from other people is really your own judgment towards yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
You
Hmm.
have to be good with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we're grasping with other people, be my partner, be my love, children, make me feel validated and needed and worthy, where it's like, these are nobody else's jobs. I
No.
know we're lured into it. Like, we're told, go find that soul partner, go find these children, go find this, where it's like, you have to start with being good with you.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like a cliche and whatnot, yet to really embody that, because when the breakup happens, when the people die, when the job goes, you're with you.
Yeah.
And those things are no longer there. Are you going to separate from yourself? And you may, in a little point, because it's too overwhelming, yet it's to remember to come back home.
Mm-hmm.
And the home is within yourself, not in the other people, to make me feel better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Clean your own house first. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for this conversation and everything that you've offered and shared here. Um, thank you so much. Where can people find you, Nat?
liftoneself.com, LIFTONESELF.com. On there, you'll find the emotional sobriety workshop. You'll find the raw healing course to sign up for it so you can know when it's launched. I also have, one-on-one sessions. I also have my own podcast that's called the Lift Oneself, where my intention was to remove the stigma around mental health and create
Mm,
mental wealth, so people can see that there's different modalities and different ways to, work with yourself.
mhm,
I'm also on social media under Lift Oneself, where you can find little nuggets of my podcasts and, my own journeys and my insights and everything else. And so just really building that community of reminding ourselves to lift our ego, which is the defense mechanisms of the nervous system, so we can be in that one self, in that space, in that place that we're all connected in.
mm. I love it. I love it. Go check out Natalie, everybody, at Lift Oneself on her podcast and on Instagram, on social media. It's been such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for the mindful moment. I'm going to do another one before I go downstairs and turn the TV off. Thank you, Nat. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we hope we hope you got what you needed. And thanks for tuning in today. And you can find us here again, same place, same time, same channel next week.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.